Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we pick up in the story of Prophet Yusuf, the section in which, we're into the second 7 years. The 7 years in which there's a lot of hardship, there's famine, there's drought, there's lack of resources, not enough to go around for everybody, not enough to feed all the hungry mouths. And so the brothers of Sayyidina Yusuf are really having a hard time with their tribe in Palestine. People are going hungry, and they have very, very bad produce, limited produce, and they decide to go again for a third time to visit Egypt and to start to try to get some food and resources from that Muhsin, a man over there who helped them many times before. And so they show up, and remember last time they left Benjamin behind, so he is with Yusuf at this point, and they show up again in Egypt, and they say to Yusuf again, not knowing who he is, this is all we have. This is all we're able to come up with to trade with you. We know it's very bad quality. We know it's not enough. We know it's not good. But we're hoping, because you are such a good man, such a generous man, that you will give us what we need. And so, subhanAllah, it is at this moment when they are in a very, very weak situation, in a needy situation, in which they're seeking the help of Yusuf, he asks them, do you know who I am? It is then at this point that he reveals himself to his brothers. And all of a sudden, subhanAllah, everything comes full force. They look at him closely, they look at him in the eyes, and they realize that this man that they had been seeking help with, this man of prestige and honor and position in this foreign land of Egypt, is actually their little brother. Their little brother that they had thrown in the well, in that deep, dark, dry well so many years ago, that he had, what they had intended for him, to get rid of him, to kill him, to they didn't really care what happened to him. Look what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had intended for him. Look what he had become. Why? Because of his character. That same reason that their father had paid attention to him and that had mentored him and that had loved him, subhanAllah. This is who he had become after all of the difficult times that he had faced. And so they recognize their brother and they say, are you Yusuf? He says, yes, I am Yusuf. And at this minute, and this is my brother, Benjamin. He had already revealed himself to his brother in this time. And so his 10 brothers remember what they had done to him, and they start to feel guilty, they start to feel ashamed, and they start to feel worried. Yusuf is now in a position of power. He can turn them away without no food. He can actually even get them punished for what they did to him. He can blame them for, I lost my life, I was taken away from my family, I was taken away from my beloved father, I wasn't among us, all of you, all of these years, what I went through in the house of the Aziz, in the jail, because of you and what you did. He could have done that to them. He could have blamed them, right? But he did. And so they were afraid. They were worried. What kind of response is Yusuf going to have now that they're standing in front of him in a position of weakness and need? And subhanAllah, again, over and over, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam teaches from the beginning of the Muslim Ummah, from the Sahaba that were listening to the recitation of the Surah in Mecca until today, just what kind of honor and dignity and character that a true believer, a true muhsin should have, the one that understands his purpose and one that understands that the reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything that he gives up is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything that he goes through is written by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so subhanAllah, Yusuf says to his brothers at that moment, لا تثريب عليكم اليوم. There is no blame on you, there is no harm on you. I'm not gonna, and so I'm not gonna punish you for what you did to me. It's over. That's history. There's no revenge. There's no bringing old things up. SubhanAllah, what a beautiful, dignified, honorable position that Yusuf takes over in his life, and what he takes now with his brothers, the ones who had basically taken him away from his father so many years ago. This is the same response that our Prophet Muhammad had when he entered Mecca. After his family, after his uncles, the Quraysh, his cousins, the people of Mecca, the place that he had called home, after they had tortured him and his followers, after they had tormented him, they had pushed him away from his home. He had went all the way to Medina. He had done hijrah and turned away from his beloved Mecca. When he comes back to Mecca for Fath Mecca, they had attacked him in Badr and Uhud and Khandaq, everything that he went through with these Quraysh. When he comes back and he's in a position of power and leadership in Fath Mecca, when he comes back to Mecca and destroys all the idols and brings La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah to the gates of Mecca, the people of Quraysh are worried. Just the same situation as the brothers of Yusuf are feeling. And what does Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam say to them? لا تثريب عليكم اليوم. It's over. History is history. There is no punishment. We're moving forward. Even Yusuf says to his brothers, the shaitan came between us. Like he makes them feel it's okay. Don't worry, and don't guilt trip yourself too much. The shaitan came between. What a beautiful soul Sayyidina Yusuf has, and Sayyidina Muhammad followed in his footsteps, and so did many other great leaders since that time, subhanallah. And we also, each one of us, have to learn from these amazing characters that Yusuf had, and also apply it in our relationships with people. When people harm us, how do we get back to them? How do we answer them? Who do we turn to? Where do we seek our reward? And who do we leave things in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And this is exactly what Yusuf teaches us in this moment. And so he tells them, subhanAllah, go back and bring back your family, bring back my parents, bring back the rest of the children and the family, your wives, the tribe, bring them back into Egypt. And subhanAllah, this is when Bani Israel, basically the other name for Sayyidina Yaqub is Israel, and his children, the tribes of his sons, the 12 tribes are Bani Israel. This is how they make it from Palestine into Egypt, and eventually from them will come Sayyidina Musa, and this is when Musa will take Bani Israel again out of Egypt. But this is how this lineage of prophecy makes it to Egypt, when Yusuf tells his brothers, bring back my father, bring back your family, and come to Egypt, and you can live here a good life, and don't worry about living that life now in this difficult 7 years. And so subhanallah, his brothers go back and they bring their father, and in that moment we see how Sayyidina Yusuf is reflecting on his life. He sees his life has come full circle, and he reminds us, and he reminds the companions, and he reminds believers until the end of time. He says, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ, verily, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ, verily the one who has taqwa, the one who's always aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yusuf was always aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He in the house of the Aziz, he did not fall into the fitan and the tests and the tribulations of the situation there. He always had taqwa, awareness. He was always making sure not to fall into what would displease his creator and his beloved Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So Yusuf reminds us, verily the one who has taqwa and the one who has sabr. He had patience. Yusuf was very patient. All of those years that he was away from his family, that he was tested over and over. He says, إِنَّهُ, verily, مَنْ يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ, the one who has taqwa and sabr. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ, verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لَا يُضَيْعُ أَجْرُ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, Allah never will let the reward of those who are muhsin. This word muhsin really is mentioned so many times in this surah. It's really, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to reflect on the character of Yusuf, and the character of a believer, on the character of a da'i, on the character of a muslih, somebody who has a responsibility, somebody who has a dream and a goal and a purpose, what kind of person you should be. Prophet Yusuf tells us that verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never is lost the reward of the one who carries himself with ihsan, with taqwa, with sabr, and hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So his brothers come to him, his family comes to him, and it's in that moment when his dream actually becomes reality, and he sees his parents and his brothers, the sun and the moon and the stars, bow down to him, and he realizes that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had in store for him has happened, because subhanallah, it says in the ayah, Inna Rabbi latifun lima yasha. Really, subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanahu wa ta'ala brings things around in the most beautiful of ways, in the most hidden of ways, in the most subtle of ways. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all of a sudden Sayyidina Yusuf saw that in front of his eyes. Everything that I went through, there was a purpose, there was a reason, there was an ending. And this is my reward in the dunya, and his reward in the akhirah is much greater. Subhanallah, let us learn from our beloved Sayyidina Yusuf, as our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our beloved Prophet, learned from Yusuf, and has of many who walked these roads of these in our ummah before us. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.